I'll do one more for you. I was going to go a little light. I'm going to post those comments, which are true. But I was going to go a little light on Miss Constance Ludicky. But I'll leave the comments that are a little harder. Why are you mad right now? A lot of that you've seen me discuss had to do with, is there maybe sexual contact with minors by law enforcement? Is some of the accusations of Patriot Dad true? And this, I'm reading the paper. Okay, this will be the last one. The other day in the paper, I'll comment on that or the one before this one. The Kohler Times reported that there's a police officer, I think it's Alice, but it's in this area, but he had been accused of, he was in another department, and he accused of like a sexual assault while on duty, making a welfare call, I think it was something like that. But either way, that officer from another department was being investigated of a sexual assault while being a police officer. And the article in the Kohler Times said he then left that department and got hired, and eventually has been on the police department in Alice, Mathis, one of these cities. So they said, how did that happen? And they contacted the police chief of the department here at Kohler Times, and he said he was unaware of it, and as far as they knew, I guess he was never fully, why the investigation was dropped, sort of like if you just quit the department and moved to another department, maybe they dropped it. Look, if you're in society and you're a civilian and you rape, or you don't get dropped if you quit your job, there's a very different standard. So that came out the other day. Why am I mad now? This fits much more with what I've been discussing. This is today's, just right now, San Diego police chief, another little town. San Diego is a little town like the one I just referred to, Mathis or Alice. Investigation reopened. Now this is the police chief. Nueces County DA says the police chief shouldn't be in law enforcement. Okay? The Nueces County, I'll try to give the link, DA. Now this is the new DA, Mark Skirky, has reopened a years-old investigation into the San Diego police chief. Now I remember this story. I didn't think this man was still the police chief. The man is accused of writing sexually explicit letters to his teenage stepdaughter, who later killed herself. District Attorney Mark Gonzalez said he knows he may not be able to prove the case, but believes Richard Nava, who's the police chief of San Diego, should not be a police chief at all, or in any form of law enforcement. All right? In December of 2009, this police chief, who's still the police chief, Adeline Vasquez shot herself in her bedroom using Nava's gun, the stepfather. Shortly after she killed herself with the gun of the police chief, her mother found sexually explicit letters in the girl's bedroom from the police chief, who was a stepfather by the name of Nava. Nava confessed to writing the letters, and Rojas declined to comment about the investigation. Robstown Police and Texas Department of Family and Protective Services investigated. They found the police chief's DNA in Vasquez's bed, his stepdaughter, or stepdaughter. Though Robstown Police presented the case in the district attorney's office in 2010 under a previous administration, that's Mark Skirka, who is known to be real tough on crime. But in this instance, you had a police chief with sexual activity with his stepdaughter, who the stepdaughter committed suicide, and evidence was found of a crime. Nava was never arrested or charged. Why did the district attorney, Mark Gonzalez, I remember this case when it happened. I thought this man was fired. This man, San Diego is in Nueces County. Corpus Christi is the biggest city in Nueces County. Now, this is a sex crime committed on a young girl by the police chief. It's a stepdaughter. But this police chief was not even charged and remained to be the police chief. Now, Mark Gonzalez had a history of supposedly being tough on crime. District Attorney Mark Skirka had a history of supposedly being tough on crime. But Skirka did a lot of stuff that we've all discussed. Why would Mark Skirka actually not this police chief was not fired, Nava, but he was also not arrested or charged? The daughter killed herself. The mother found explicitly sexual letters in the daughter's room, and the DNA of the girl was found in the bed together. Now, all of this would have brought charges. Why did Mark Skirka not bring charges? Nava taught a criminal justice class at Callanan High School at the time, so he was in contact with other young girls. When reached by the Kohler Times on Thursday, so he vaguely remembers there was an investigation and that it was Nava resigned from that job at the school. He left the district and we didn't hear from him or ever again, meaning the school district, but he kept his job as the police chief. After reviewing the case with the detective, Gonzalez said the odds are stacked against him. Prosecutors face a challenge without Vasquez's account and the statute of limitations. But Mark Gonzalez, he's the new DA, but a lot criticized him because he had a tattoo of innocent on. So he was known to kind of be, as a defense attorney who got in office when Skirka left, some said he might not be tough on crime. What you see, though, in this case is a former DA, Mark Skirka, actually not going after somebody that was connected, which actually fits in with some of the stuff that I've talked about with the Patriot Dad, believing that there's connecting with the sex ring of younger age people, and that because some might all be involved, some in the corruption might all be together in this type of a group, which Patriot Dad believes happened, that they don't bring charges against one another. I didn't realize Mark Skirka never even charged this police chief, who's the chief today in San Diego. He never even charged him. You had the death of a young girl. You had a sexual crime, enough evidence for a sexual crime in this case. No arrest and no charges. This does play to some of the questions we brought up today. Being I made one last one, I'll leave the comments. Some of them you could see are a little like to get your my honest view of Miss Ludicky was that as you kind of looked at all that, I believe that she's not able to practice law in Nueces County anymore. For the various, I seriously do believe that woman should not be practicing law. And I believe some of the things I mentioned rise to the level of criminal. But this one case, I'll try to link it, and this will be the last one. This shows that was very strange, that man, with the death of his stepdaughter, sexual crimes committed there, letters, evidence, DNA, not only never arrested, but never charged. It's an amazing thing. Mr. Gonzalez, I guess he realized, because they knew, Mark Gonzalez and some within this county know that a lot of illegal stuff does go on, okay? That's why I said I think Nanette Hassett's a good judge. I don't know if Miss Ludicky, it would wonder to me, I don't think she's involved in a sex ring, but for her to make that statement to not reveal any criminal activity by CCPD, it just made me wonder that some that are in the connections, and if she's kind of in that little group, which would include prosecutors, lawyers, all of them are kind of all in a close-knit group. Okay? And I'll post that right now. And I'll try to put the link. But I commend Mark Gonzalez because that must have been one of the things they knew. This is another thing that was done criminal with the collusion of Mr. Skirka and those. There's a serious question whether or not Judge Tom Greenwell was shot and murdered in his court because he had certain connections or was, and it's serious, and I'm not joking because national media questioned that. And our county has never come out and given a proper resolution for that. It's the last one.